But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you.
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters. It's the start of a new week, another depressing week covering Newcastle United Football Club. It just goes from bad to worse. This is the 5-minute rant, the first of 3 shows tonight, because we've got part 6 of the Charlie Salvador interviews coming up at 7 o'clock. So we'll be cutting off at about 5 to 7, and then 7:30 ladies' night with the girls to talk about the last 7 days at Newcastle United. Don't forget, this is your show. Nobody lined up at the minute, so if you're sitting at home and you want to get something off your chest, click that link which is in the description box, and also click the link which I've just posted about half an hour ago in the into the comments section, and come on, give us your views. For the time being though, I will talk to Pete and then Chris about the game at the weekend. So Pete, the dust settled. Was it a point gained or was it 2 points lost?
If you look at some of the other results over the weekend, you would say potentially it's 2 points dropped, because the results weren't actually bad for us, and we could have had some real clear daylight if that result had gone our way at the weekend. And really, if we're thinking about it, it should have. I mean, there's a lot of talk. A lot of the talk now is about the goal and how it was given away and all the rest of it. And if you look at everything else in the game, bar that Dubravka, fantastic save at the end, he hasn't really had much to do. Whereas you can talk about 3-4 good chances that we could have had, and I'm not talking about half chances. I'm talking about clear chances that could have won the game for us. And considering how much talent and how much money Wolves have spent, we were actually the better team for long parts of the game. And it was only really when St Maximin and Almiron went off together, when they were both off the field, is when we looked a little bit vulnerable. But we picked ourselves up again, and the likes of Murphy and Fraser were driving forward. And rather than sitting back constantly, we still looked like a genuine threat, even later on into the game. And that's not really been us, but we did. So, all that being said, it's frustrating. I said it on Twitter after we came off Matchday Live. If you'd have given me a point before the game, I'd have slapped your hand off for it, just to get some points on the board. But actually, with how the game panned out, I'm gutted that we didn't get all 3. And all it does now is just make, this Sunday even more bigger than it was before.
Yeah, it does. It was disappointing, Chris. I mean, we did Match Day Live. We you guys watched it. I worked as a producer on that one. I couldn't even get on the own stream, but I enjoyed it, putting the comments up on the screen. But yeah, I mean, it gave me a bit more of an opportunity to sit and watch the game. But yeah, it was disappointing, wasn't it, to go 1-0 up? A really good goal by Jamal Lascelles, but then caught with a sucker punch again, and had it not been for Dubravka's save, could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, it could have been. I mean, as Pete rightly said, at the start of the game, I said at the start that I wanted to at least get a point, and that's certainly what we did. But it definitely feels like an opportunity missed, because we played really well against Wolves, and the opportunity was there for 3 points, and it's a shame. But we've kind of rode that out now, I think. I mean, I was just looking then actually at the stats from the Palace Fulham game. I didn't watch it on Sunday, but by the looks of it, Fulham were really unlucky not to get maximum points, and obviously, God forbid, if they had it done, we'd have definitely been ruined. The loss of the 2 points. But I suppose the biggest thing, or the biggest disappointment, apart from not picking up maximum points on Saturday, was we're all now nervous over the injuries to Almiron and to Saint. And keeping our fingers crossed that they aren't out for a long period, because if they are, we're going to have to really get our fingers out and plan how we're going to go forward. Certainly for West Brom on Sunday, it's quite nervous really, but I'm quietly confident about Sunday, and I'm hoping that we can take the positives from that performance, because like I say, we did really well against a very strong Wolves side, and as Pete said, other than the goal they scored, and then obviously Dubravka making that fantastic save towards the end, I think Dubravka had a pretty quiet night.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, it was always going to be a difficult one, changing goalkeepers. I think he got it right. I think he made the right decision. I think, with hindsight now, it maybe should have been a little bit earlier. But Dubravka, for all he was at fault for the first goal, Pete made a really good save, didn't he? To keep us, keep us in it and secure us that point.
They're the kind of saves we come to expect from Dubravka, if I'm honest with you. And that's kind of what we've seen since he's been at the club. And that's what's made him the number one. And there's no doubt about it, before his injury at the back end of restart, he is one of the top 5 goalkeepers in this league. I'm convinced of that. And we are extremely lucky to have him. And with all the debate about Darlow, we know how well a season Darlow's had, Dubravka is our number one. And although he made a mistake, he could have kept it out, should have kept it out. There's an argument for and against that. He showed why he's such a quality keeper in making that save, and I'm just glad to have him back, because when you're in the trenches and you're digging to survive, to stay in this league, you want that type of quality goalkeeper behind you. If you're a defender and you're a midfielder, you want to know that if you make a mistake and they get in and behind, that you've got Dubravka there to save the day. So that's exactly what we need right now.
Yeah, no, we definitely do. I mean, it's the injuries we're focusing on, Chris, because ultimately, we're without Wilson, although we saw some positive signs last week that he was back into light training and maybe not going to be out as long as we all feared. But ASM, of course, and Miggy, as you quite rightly pointed out, both going off injured. And although ASM doesn't look as if he's going to be laid off, it surely looks as if he's going to miss that West Brom game at the weekend. But Miggy, I think the words being used were he looked distressed. You're thinking, wow. He could be out for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's a big worry. Steve Bruce commented, didn't he, after the game, that Miggy, being the type of player that he is, he's not one to feign injury or not battle through. That's the kind of player that he is. So when Miggy stays down, you are a bit concerned, because he tends to be one of those players who gets back up and carries on. And obviously, I think it was at half time, wasn't it? He looked like he was struggling. Then he came out second half, and then obviously he couldn't continue. So it is a big worry. And out of the two of them, I am more worried about Miggy, because it's that, and we've said this loads of times, lads, it's about that work rate. He kind of sets the tone for the team. He takes us forward. And as I've said about St. Maximin before, when he's on point, he's fantastic. But if St. Maximin's not feeling it or not absolutely on it, then sometimes he can go missing. Whereas with Miggy, I can't ever recall Miggy, not putting in 110 or, being quiet throughout a game. Granted, we've been under the cosh a fair few times, but Miggy is always buzzing around the pitch, and if he's out, he's going to be a huge miss for us. So keeping our fingers crossed that hopefully it's a temporary measure and that he's not out for too long. If he's out for a game or two, we'll just have to make do. And obviously we've got Fraser there to come in, possibly Gale if he changes the shape, but if he's out for an extended period, it's certainly a big problem for us.
A lot of people in the chat paying their respects to Glenn Roeder. Of course, I was on live yesterday with Mick Lowes yesterday afternoon, and we did pay respect to him. But as you would expect from NUFC Matters, we will be paying our own respects in our own way. And Wednesday night, Retro Night, of course, is usually dedicated to us looking back on games between Newcastle United and many teams. And part of that show, is usually spent to picking our all-time 11 between players that have played for both teams that we're covering. Well, on Wednesday night, we are going to do a tribute to Glenn Roeder. It's safe to say that everyone who takes part in that show was lucky enough to see him play for Newcastle United. So we've all got our own memories of watching Roeder and the Roeder Shuffle at St James's Park. And we're going to be talking in depth about Glenn Roeder's career at Newcastle, sharing our memories of him, sharing our memories of the games that he played in, and also putting together our own 11s, including me, because I don't normally take take part in that, of an all-time Newcastle 11 between the team that Glenn played in at Newcastle and obviously the team that Glenn managed. So that should be something a little bit different for everybody on Wednesday night, and a fitting tribute to somebody who was a great player and a great captain. And looking forward to doing that on Wednesday night. And Paul Gibson, commiserations to you, mate. Falling over, slightly intoxicated with a cracked rib. Dear me, how. Get well soon, mate. Doesn't sound good at all. And he's high as a kite on tramadol. He says, honestly, I've never had pain like it. Good luck, Paul. Get yourself some good DVDs on, or get Netflix on, mate. Okay, going to bring our first caller in tonight, and it's a friend of the show, Adam. Good evening, mate.
Are you right, lads? I think I'm back on stage.
Yeah, good to see you, mate. Good to see you. So, you're always somebody who's got an opinion, mate. We always like to hear from the younger members of the fan base, mate. So, what was your take on the game at the weekend and the future, I suppose, mate? Fire away.
Well, on paper, I mean, a 1-1 draw against Wolves isn't too bad for me. I thought we played quite well in the match, but the injuries is the problem, you know. Sir Max and Alan won. I mean, they're two massive injuries. No, of course, craft as well. I don't really rate craft, but I haven't got a vibe back anymore. So, yeah, on paper, I thought it was an alright draw. I thought we played well at times, but the injuries are going to be massive, especially the West Brom game. I can't see it being anything other than 0-0 draw, I'm going to be honest. I think it's going to be a terrible match when we play West Brom, but it is worrying. That's what I'm going to say. It is worrying at this moment in time.
What was your take on Darlo Dubravka? Do you think you made the right call bringing Dubravka back in, and do you think it should have been earlier if you do think that?
I felt like after the Chelsea game we should have brought Dubravka back in. I felt like in that match, you know, Darlo just make mistakes. You know, the second he does that, I would have brought Dubravka back in, and admittedly, I felt like Darlo probably would have saved the goal, but at the end of the match, he would have back in you'd save. And on paper, I would have put Dubravka back and go for Darlo. So it's a tough one to call in goalkeepers, but I felt like Stevens made the right choice to bring him back in.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. The other question I'm going to ask you is, obviously, with West Brom on the horizon, who do we play up front? I know we're opportunities to play anyone's fairly limited now, but who would you go with if you were picking the team next weekend?
Well, exactly. You know, there's not many options at all. I would personally start Fraser. I think Fraser's a really good player. For me, he's just not a player. He hasn't got consistent game time this season. I would play Gale and Jordan. I don't know how. I have two strikers. I'll play like Gale and the right, and I would have both of them starting, and I would obviously have Ryan Fraser in there. But yeah, I wouldn't personally start Andy Callum. I would have Jordan and Gale and Fraser in. Somehow, I would get all three of them in there. Okay,
Chris, what do you make of those points being made by Adam?
Yeah, I think Adam's spot on. You know, I think it's right that Dubravka's come back in. I just wish it had been a bit earlier, like Adam. I do think he should have come in a lot earlier than what he did. But the main thing is he's back now, and that's good. In terms of, you know, the striker choice, I absolutely agree, Adam. You know, we know that Joe Linton plays better with someone up top next to him. If you isolate him up there on his own, I think he struggles. We've all seen that. Perhaps, you know, having someone like Dwight Gale doing a bit more of Joe's running might work out as an advantage. It's important that we now play to the team's strengths. I mean, I'm not saying get rid of the 4-4-2 diamond, but perhaps just tweak it slightly up top in terms of, rather than having the two up top going out wide left and wide right, maybe just keep them as a focal point in the centre and just say to them, right, stay there, and then it's up to, you know, the lads in midfield to get the ball in there to them. It is worrying. I must admit, I am nervous over the West Brom game, and I take Adam's point. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Adam said that it's going to be 0-0. I tend to agree with you, Adam, and I think it's going to be, for me, it's going to be 0-0, 1-0 either side. I think that first goal is going to be integral. As soon as if we go 1-0 down, I think we're in trouble. Similarly, I think if we go 1-0 ahead, we've got something to fight for, and you know, West Brom aren't all that great as we've seen throughout the season, but you know, they will still believe that they can get out of it. Sam Allardyce has got experience in doing so. I think it's too late for them, but they will go down fighting. So it's up to us to make sure that we take advantage of that, get ourselves in the lead, and hang on to it. Maybe even push for a second, which would be fab.
Pete.
No, Adam made some really good points there. For me, you know, Dubravka should have come in after the Villa game when Darlow made a real big mistake for the first goal. I think that was, for me, was the alarm bells, and that he should have been replaced at that point. With regards to the front line, like you said, Adam, there's not really many options there, I've got to be honest. But I'm toying with the fact of starting Murphy, Fraser and Dwight Gale. And I say Dwight Gale lightly, and it's whether he's got the attitude to actually want to play for us, because that's the biggest question mark for me at the moment, because he's leaving the club. Like, it's not been confirmed, but there's no doubt about it, he's leaving the club. And I think that's why he's not been playing. And it's whether he's got the appetite to play for us. If he has, I'd start him, and I'd play Fraser and Murphy either side of him and have them with pace and creativity to just run at West Brom. I'm toying with the fact of Murphy playing just purely because I don't know whether he'd be a better impact player like he was against Wolves. So maybe starting Joe Linton and then bringing him on later in the game if we've still, got something to fight for. Hopefully we have. I mean, I said it after the game. I still believe, even without St. Maximin and Almiron, that we've got enough to beat West Brom. I do believe that. I think if we can keep their striker quiet, their new striker they signed in January, he was a bit of a handful, but again misses a lot of chances. If we can keep him quiet and keep the set pieces to a minimum, which is where their biggest threat is, I believe that we can score goals, because they will concede goals. They were lucky not to have conceded 3 goals at the weekend, and they ended up winning the game. How? I have no idea. They are not a good side. And we have players, even our squad players, are good enough to beat them. So, look, I think all of us here can pick a good enough team to win that game. But the man in the middle is Steve Bruce, and he's got to be the one that's big enough and brave enough to pick that side that's going to win the game, and that's what he gets paid for. But I still have belief that we can go on Sunday and beat West Brom with the squad that we've got available. I mean, there was talk today about Almiron's injury being not as bad as we first feared, although his results were coming back today, so I'm sure we'll find out. I'm sure one of the journalists will leak it at some point. The journalists will probably know before Almiron knows. That seems to be the way of the world at the moment. But look, if Almiron's back or St. Maximin's back, fantastic. But we've got Manquillo back, so that's a straight swap for Kraft, because he's been training a week now. I'm just going to finish it there. I still think we're good enough to beat West Brom, and I think you make some really good points about the likes of Fraser and Darlow, and actually the fact that a point is still a good point if we win on Sunday.
If we win on Sunday, of course. Adam, you're still doing your stuff on YouTube. I've just stuck your link in the chat, so anybody wants to catch Adam on his YouTube channel, please do. He's nearly up to 7,000 subscribers, so give him a subscription.
Great last show as well, Steve.
Yeah, I enjoyed his review. Adam, it was a good idea, that, mate, and I know it was only 20 odd minutes, and I mean, I've got to be honest, I was quite happy with where I finished. I don't like to be top and I don't like to be bottom. Being in the middle was okay with me, mate. But yeah, good idea. And are you still enjoying doing your podcast?
Oh, of course, yeah. Just laugh, really. I mean, obviously that video again, it's just literally just my opinion, I suppose. But no, of course I enjoy it. It's a hobby to me, but at the same time, I get some money on the side, so yeah, it keeps me going, I suppose. But no, I do enjoy making these videos.
I know I've got one fan in your house. Say hello to your dad for us. Take care, mate. Right, thanks for coming on.
I appreciate it, man. Take care.
Take care. Cheers. Great to have Adam on. Good lad. Monksheet and Mag, welcome, mate. Always a pleasure to have new subscribers. First time on the channel. Good evening to all. After 60 years as a Newcastle supporter, 2 point. Dubravka 100%. Joe Linton is a £40 million donkey. Good stuff, mate. Good stuff. You're not going to get any arguments on this channel, but welcome. Please subscribe and enjoy. Bringing in my next caller. Good evening to David Reed, who is a prolific texter. And somebody who's wanting to go out with a meal with every one of us. I think he's the only one you haven't asked out. The only one you haven't asked out for dinner's me.
I'll take you out anytime.
Welcome to the show, David. Good to have you on. And I see you've got your NUFC Matter Sav t-shirt on. Well done, mate. Great stuff. It's good to see so many people supporting the food bank through our t-shirts, mate. Much appreciated. Over to you, mate. It's your chance to rant. What would you like to say tonight?
Well, first of all, I just want to say sleep well, Glenn Roeder.
Yeah.
Tremendous captain. He did well when he came back as manager, and all my hearts go out to his family. Right, so I don't think Kraft is a bad defender. He's a decent right back. He's a Swedish international, and if Manquillo's out, then I don't think we've got anything better. Next point is, did Bruce really tell Jones to something off on Saturday? I didn't see it personally. So somebody can maybe confirm that to me. Sunday, I think we'll have to go with Fraser, Gale and Murphy, because we've got nothing else. And just your thoughts, lads?
Brilliant, mate. Great stuff, and some new topics, which is always welcome. Pete, let you take first bite at that, and where you go, mate. What's your reactions to that?
First and foremost, fantastic to mention Glenn Roeder. I wasn't fortunate enough to watch him as a player, but as a manager, when he came in under really difficult circumstances at the club, he managed to drag us up to European football. I don't know how he managed to do it with the squad that we had at the time, but he did it, and he was brilliant in the respect and the love that he showed for the club whilst manager. I'll always remember that, and he's always remembered fondly for that reason, certainly from my point of view. With regards to the F-gate, shall we say, with regards to Steve Bruce and Jones, I don't believe he was telling him directly to F off. That's my own personal opinion. I thought it was one of two things. I got the feeling that Jones was telling him some information maybe about one of the injuries, and he was going off like F off, as if to say he was frustrated by that. Then I started watching it over and over again. I don't know, when you keep watching things, your mind starts going away with you. And I then started to think that maybe one of the players that was then refusing to come on as a sub. That was my next thought. And I was thinking of the likes of maybe Dwight Gale as being one of them, because now I know they cut to him just before and he was kind of just sat in the stands, whereas everyone else was warming up and getting ready. So I thought it was one of those two things. I didn't think it was a direct F off to Graham Jones personally. That's just my opinion. But look, we'll never know. Or when we do find out, it'll be way in the distance. Where things will have already been settled by then, and hopefully Bruce will have moved on. So that's just my take on that.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. What about you, Chris?
I'll start off with the Glenn Roeder comments. So yeah, I similar to Pete, I never actually saw Roeder play. But when he came in as a manager, what struck me with him was how much he loved the club and how respected he was. I mean, all the comments, that people are coming out with and saying, and what was really nice as well, what I wanted to add, Newcastle fans often get tarnished with the brush of, oh, we only want someone from the northeast managing the club. We only want a Geordie. We don't want, we don't like the Cockneys, and that Glenn Roeder typifies that that's not true. He got the club, he understood the club, and he gave his all, both as a player and as a manager. So it was really sad to hear the news, but it's nice to see all the memories and all the pictures popping up when I was looking through Twitter. It was nice because it took me back a few years. So that I wish Glenn Roeder's family all the very best, obviously. In terms of other comments made, yeah, I'm on the same path as Pete, really. In terms of Bruce telling Jones to F off. Like Pete, I don't think that was the case. It was, as Pete said, it's probably a case of maybe him some bad news and going, oh, fuck off, man, kind of thing. Or it could be kind of said in jest. Maybe Graham Jones, I don't know, maybe Graham Jones suggested doing something a certain way, and then maybe he's been proven right and went, oh, what do you think of that, Steve? And Steve's gone, oh, fuck off. I didn't see any any animosity between the two of them, albeit it looks uncomfortable. But I didn't see anything, majorly war there. So I think that it was something enough for myself. In terms of your comments on Kraft, so Kraft for me has always been second or third best right back. I think Manquillo is our best right back, albeit we do need an upgrade on Manquillo. Obviously, when Manquillo got injured, that wasn't ideal. So now Kraft is the only option, unless of course you consider putting Richie there, or possibly Jacob Murphy there, or even Ryan Fraser there. So Kraft's kind of the best option we've got at the moment. I'm hearing Manquillo should be back pretty shortly, so I'm looking forward to Manquillo coming back. In terms of going forward with Kraft, he's probably not a bad understudy, but the trouble is, I'd be quite happy to put him in a cup game, but I wouldn't necessarily want him in as a first choice right back. And maybe he's a bit low on confidence, but I take your point. He is a Swedish international. We've signed him for a reason. I believe he was a little bit sought after, because when we signed him, I'm pretty sure the club that we signed him from had only had him for a few months, and we got him on a cheap deal. So maybe there is a player in there. And, I know Roy Keane said yesterday that he was having an argument with Jamie Redknapp about anyone can be an international as long as you can trap a ball. And I'm sure that was a bit tongue-in-cheek. Kraft is a Swedish international and quite highly thought of in Sweden as far as I'm aware. But going forwards, if we do get this takeover, I think Kraft will be one of the first out the door. But while he's wearing the black and white, we've got to get behind him. And the one thing I will say in defence of Kraft, it's never through a lack of effort. I've never seen him not bothered or not tracking his man. I just don't physically think he's capable of doing it in terms of his speed and his pace. But I think the effort's there, and he comes across as a pretty good professional. So, like I say, as long as he's in the black and white, I'll continue to support him.
Okay. Anything else to say, David?
No, I agree with all that. I mean, he is one of those players that will throw his head at the ball, put his body on the line. Yep, thanks for having us on.
No, good stuff, mate, and good stuff. And to be honest, mate, just to give you my view, I agree with the lads. I don't think, it went viral, but I don't think, there was a fallout between the lads on the touchline. I just genuinely think it's a football thing, that, people will read into that kind of thing, but I just think it was a comment, and he said, "Nah, I agree with Pete 100%." And I didn't make a big thing of that. It's funny because we've had two completely different views there on Kraft. You come on and said, give the kid a chance, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And other people like Adam have come on and not massive fans. It's one of those things. It's all about opinions, but ultimately for us, we've got to carry on with what we've got. Do you think we'll stay up, David?
Oh yeah. 100%. I think Fulham don't score goals. I think Sheffield United are already down. West Brom, I don't think they'll get the points. But the main question is, do you want a KFC or McDonald's?
It's a good way of looking at it, mate. David, thanks for braving it and coming on, mate. Good to see you, and thanks for supporting the channel, mate. It's always good to have people who are regulars in the chat on there, mate. And I hope we eventually got the answer to your question. Shall we stick or shall we twist? We got there in the end. Take care, mate. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye, mate. Good to have him on. Great to see you. Put name to faces, lads, isn't it? When we've been on the we've been on the channel, a year now, and when you're getting people who are regulars in the chat who are braving it and coming on, it's really good to see people. So fantastic to have David on tonight, as I know he's a big supporter of the show.
Steve, I thought you made a really good point at the end that we didn't get a chance to sort of elaborate on, really, and it was about the likes of Fulham and Brighton. He obviously, Dave feels really confident that we'll stay up, and I believe we can stay up, and I still believe that we will, because if you look at the other teams, I know that Fulham have picked up points and have won games, but that was a group of games where they were expected to bring points home against teams that you would expect. Every team is going to have a run of games where they've got that run where they should be picking up points. And although they picked up points, the likes of Burnley away, the likes of Palace, they could have still picked up more and they didn't. The one thing about Fulham, I looked, in the last 12 games, they've scored 8 goals and conceded 9. So they don't concede many, but they don't score many either. And if you put one past them, if you get the first goal, the likelihood is that you're going to win the game. And they've got teams coming up now that can score goals. And that's going to be the difference. That's going to be the key. And it's whether they're going to be strong enough to break those teams down. Brighton, at the moment, can't score to save their lives, bless them. I say bless them, I don't really care, actually. I hope that continues. We're kind of in the middle at the moment. We are conceding goals, but we are looking like a threat. In these games gone by, if we'd have gone in that run of 11 games and we'd have had the likes of Wolves, we wouldn't have scored that goal that we scored from Jamal Lascelles, because we wouldn't have had the confidence to get ourselves forward. I still believe there's a fight left in us. And I look around and I think Burnley may have just got enough points, but I would have thrown them in there as well as a team that could potentially struggle. And they've all got games where they've got difficult teams. I looked at Brighton's run. Brighton's run's not easy. Burnley's run's even worse than that. Fulham's isn't great. They've all got bad runs, and we've got games that we can, the last 2 games aside, I still believe that we've got enough now in the next 5 or 6 games to secure our future for next year. No doubt about it. ASM, Miggy or not, we've still got the players that can do it. And sometimes, even without your main players, you're like a wounded animal, and teams come to you expecting to walk all over you, and you can surprise a few of them. And that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, I 100% agree, mate. It comes down to those games that you play against teams around you. And if you don't beat them, that tends to end in relegation. So, the weekend's game is a huge one. Before I bring Barry on, Ada just says, thoroughly enjoyed your podcast with Charles Salvador. Yeah, thanks, mate. There's another one on at 7 o'clock tonight, so tune in. There's another 4 or 5 episodes of that coming. Really just enjoyable chats over the last 20 years, mate, and we've just edited them and put them together. Prison authorities probably frown on it, but unfortunately they've been done and there's nothing we can do about it. They're out there now, and it gives people an opportunity to hear that he's not the monster that everyone portrays him as. And he's got to be able to progress. He's 68-year-old now, and does he not deserve the same chance as everybody else? That's to open a suggestion, but I'll leave you to decide. You listen to the podcasts and you make a decision. Welcome to Barry. Good evening, mate.
Hello, guys. You all right?
Good to see you, mate. Good to see you. And as always, it's up to you, mate, to take the floor and tell us what you want to talk about.
Can I just ask Steve, though, is there any chance of getting the rant on prescription?
The rant on prescription?
Since it's been started, for me personally, after watching Newcastle on a weekend, it's such an uplift to actually get a chance to come on and kick off.
Well, it's good. It's good. I mean, I'm just looking forward to the day you can come on and be jubilant. And, maybe it's when you're coming off the back of a 4-day bender or something, you can come on the show and, you're shaking champagne around your living room when we've won the European Cup or something. I don't know. It'd be nice to do that instead of having to come on and go mental. But I get where you're coming from. It's like a therapy for me, to be honest, 7 days a week doing this. We get a chance to talk about it and, vent your spleen. But yeah, that's why we did this show. It's, every show that we do is a gamble, and this one seems to be quite popular and different people coming on. And we're seeing some of the regular faces, as well as people like David tonight, who I never thought he would make the jump and come on. But, that's it. We'll just sit and talk for an hour if nobody comes on. But it's just great to have people like yourself coming on a regular basis. So the floor's yours, mate. Go for it.
My biggest worry on the Wolves match was I was sitting watching it, realised you weren't on because I was watching the guys doing the commentating, and I thought, who the sudden hell's got the rattle? Has anybody actually got it? Is anybody going to swing it round the head? Because it's like the highlight of the match for me, hearing the rattle, because it happens so infrequently. And I was thinking, I hope he's passed it on to somebody, or he's going to make an appearance if he's...
It's a classic. It's a classic. Yeah, well, we tried something at the weekend. Those of you who don't know what Barry's talking about, we obviously do a match day live. So we'll talk you through the game, me and the panel. And we've managed, thanks to, might as well get the blatant plug in now for our sponsors. Thanks to Spider VPN. They have sponsored us for the professional package this month. And essentially, it just gives us the opportunity to have 12 people involved in the chat. However, we'd never tried it out, and it allows 10 on the screen, but but 2 in backup. So we're going to have to plan it properly. It means we're going to have 12 on the stream at any one time, but I'm going to maybe spend a bit more time being the producer on the Match Day Live whilst we're still in lockdown and go from there. But thanks to Spider VPN, thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle. Thanks to Jab Signature for doing our flyers. And if you're a first time visitor to the channel, click subscribe, click like, click share and comment, and all of that helps us build the community. So over to you, Barry.
No bother. I mean, to be honest, I've got my list of points as usual. First one, I must be losing my mind because I sat and watched the bloody Fulham Crystal Palace game yesterday, and I was doing a Pete for the entire match. I was sat like that. I was looking over the top of my hands. I was looking through my fingers. I was just like, if it wasn't for the fact they haven't got anybody, they're worse than us. If they haven't got anybody who hit a barn door from about 2 foot out, they would have slaughtered Palace. They were all over them. I mean, I'll be looking to try and sign that Lookman if they do go down, because he was absolute class yesterday. And I just thought, please don't score. And it's like, that's how bad Newcastle's made us now. I've never been one for watching other teams. I usually watch Newcastle and that's about me lot. Now I'm watching the teams who are around us, hoping to get beat. It's like, it's not good for me heart. Really annoyed, Mr. Bruce, as usual. His comments about Elliot Anderson, the rumours are going around that he's saying, oh, well, the kid might get a chance now that Miggy's injured. He could be the ideal player to come in at the number 10 shirt and replace Miggy. I'm sorry, Steve, but Anderson should have been there or thereabouts anyway. The kid got 2 appearances for the team, did really well, did nothing wrong. And then he's obviously gone to the back of the queue with Matty Longstaff. It's like, what did he do to upset him? It's another one where you think, well, he was 200% active. He got stuck in. He fought for the team, and he was cast aside. And you look at some of the numpties that Bruce does play, who haven't got that commitment. I mean, God, Anderson's got to be able to do a better job than Joe Clinton, surely. I mean, for the fact he's a young kid and he might make mistakes, he's still got to be better than them. Concerns about Bruce's attitude again. You've already mentioned it in his press conference. He blames the substitutions. He blames the lack of communication. I was waiting for him to blame the grass in the middle of the goal, saying that was against us and stuff like that, because he's lost the plot. He's off on a rant and he's now grasping at straws of saying, who can I blame today? I think you're going to get blamed at one stage, Steve. He's going to turn on and say, no, all the abuse that I get off Steve Wraith is causing us to be a bad manager.
It wouldn't bloody surprise us.
I can see it coming. It's going to come out. He's going to blame somebody else.
Might be in his autobiography.
Oh, God. Be in the bargain bucket straight away. Dubravka, I've been shouting for Dubravka for ages. He made that save where the guys on the commentary saying, oh, it went off his elbow. Wasn't that amazing? And he's still got to be able to do that. He's still got to be there to do about. But I have to see his distribution was absolutely shocking. The number of times he either hoofed it straight to one of their players or he cleared and it was nowhere near anybody. I'm thinking, is this the same guy? And I'm praying, I don't know what you think, but I'm praying like mad it's just match practice that obviously he'll get better as he gets on. Steve, I want to say yesterday, I was gutted like mad because I missed the live Mick Lowe's interview.
Oh, yes.
Mick, for me, him and John Anderson, the number of nights they got me through before the Sky days, listening to them on the radio. I haven't been to the matches live for quite a while. It's always been a money thing, but listening to them too was like the next best thing. And Mick is just an absolute legend. His opinions still are up there. And I do wish he was still commentating now because I don't think that much of the guy who does it. I think one of you should do it instead.
That's very much.
The only other point, like I say, is obviously to ask you is, and I know this is the T word, I'm praying like mad, guys, and I'm going from what you're saying, Steve, and what Keith Patterson's saying, that, silence is golden. I've got that bloody song going through my head, just thinking, don't get upset, don't panic, stuff is going on. Obviously, then everybody kicked off, Amanda hasn't won a court case against Barclays, which I think had absolutely bought all to do with it anyway.
Correct.
So I just need, as a Newcastle fan, I need reassurance on a daily basis that I am still in the boat where we're in the positive mode.
Okay, well, I mean,
I like that.
As you know, Tuesday nights we have Liam on, and usually that gets completely taken over with Takeover Talk. You know, usually the question is asked on that show, but we are back as usual 6 till 7 tomorrow night. But yeah, look, if you're looking for a bit of a G, there's no change. There is no change. My understanding is that arbitration still hasn't started. There is currently legal issues holding that up now, and that's it. It's as simple as that. It's still in the hands of Mike Ashley, Nick DeMarco, and his other lawyers. And from our perspective, that can only be a good thing. It can only be a good thing that it hasn't finished. It's not over. Did Amanda's court case have anything to do with this? Will it affect it? No, it won't. And as you saw from the publicity that came from that, the judge made the statement, and then awarded in the favour, of Barclays, i.e. Barclays didn't owe Amanda anything because they felt that Amanda couldn't have facilitated the deal and put the deal through, but did sympathise with Amanda. She claimed a victory in what a lot of people said was a defeat, when in fact it wasn't. She just didn't win the massive payout that she was expecting, but more or less the judge said, I do agree with what you say, So she won a moral victory. She just didn't win any money. And that's it. It's as simple as that. But does that affect the takeover? No, because PCP weren't the 80%, 80% part of the pie of the takeover. Amanda Staveley is doing what she did with Man City deal. She's involved in the facilitation of the sale of a football club. She's pulling the people together. And yes, the difference is if the takeover goes through, there's a percentage there, which will go PCP's way in exchange for her part of the money. But ultimately, it was never make or break on that. So am I still confident? Am I still sitting here saying I'm 100%? I'm still 100% until I'm told otherwise. And I'm still hearing positive noise from both the club and from the buyer, or potential buyer. So I am concerned about relegation like everybody else. I do feel that the relegation battle is more important than any takeover talk at this moment in time. Can I see a takeover going through before the end of the season? No, because who the hell would buy a football club not knowing which division it's going to be in? And I think that's going to play its part as well. So, am I an expert? Am I in the know? No, but I know a lot more than other people. And I will not keep quiet and not try and help people, like you've just asked, for a bit of a review. But I'm not going to continue to put it on social media. I've been very careful not to mislead people or put anything on social media over the whole 12 months of this. And I'll continue to be the same way. And I won't get drawn into things on social media by people about the takeover. So, look, I'm in a privileged position because I've networked all my life. I've worked for the club on a couple, on one occasion, worked with Rafa on that three-year spell. I'm very lucky in the sense that I know people on both sides. I know a lot of journalists as well who I trust and who will give us information. Likewise, if I got information, I would do the same for them. So, look, I hope you've got something out of that, Barry, because from my perspective, if it was all doom and gloom and I felt that there was no chance of this happening, full stop, that's it. Other question somebody would ask: does the whole Khashoggi thing and all the political thing, does that affect it? For me, no, because it's exactly the same thing that came out last year. It's no different. It's not a new incident. It's not something that's just happened last week and that's going to affect the takeover. It's the same story that came out last year where Khashoggi's widow was coming out and saying this, that and the other. And look, do I agree with that? I don't know enough about it. Do I agree with somebody being murdered? No, of course I don't. I don't condone that. Do I want to get involved in the whole political, debate? No, because I don't care about that. I'm sorry, but I don't. My only concern on the takeover front is that Newcastle United, the club I love and the club I've supported, all of my football support in life, I want it to be taken over by the richest people possible so that the club can be taken to the next level. It's as simple as that. That's all I want. And unfortunately, if that means that we have some people who come in or, people connected with a country that comes in which upsets a few people, I'm sorry, but that's not my fault. Blame Mike Ashley for selling the football club to them and blame the Premier League for allowing it to happen. But it's not my fault because I want that to happen. Simple as, Barry. Like
Ashley hasn't upset a few people along the way, so it wouldn't be anything new.
Exactly. Have you got any points to make, Chris?
Just to touch what you've said on the takeover there as well, Steve. For me, Barry, I completely and wholly agree with what Steve says. Obviously, Steve knows far more than me, and I'm not going to pretend to know anything because I don't. But in terms of dealing with the takeover and managing it myself, just a word of advice. This is what I do. For me, and I'm a big thing, on politeness, and the way I'm seeing it, I will believe this takeover is going to happen until I hear something from PCP or the Rubens or a PIF even, just to say, listen, thanks so much, to all the fans for doing everything that they did, with the petition and being behind the club and trying to support things. So I fully believe that Amanda at PCP and the Rubens, would come out and say we tried our best, we did everything we could, and until that statement comes, I'm just going to stay positive. And for me, silence is good. This is really what should have happened from the start, and obviously things were leaked and stuff like that. So the quieter the better for me. Things are going on in the background, and it's frustrating for us fans, isn't it? We've been waiting a hell of a long time, but we've waited a year. As Steve said, the most important thing is staying up. We want to stay up as a club, and I think it will hopefully help the takeover if we are a Premier League side. If we're not a Premier League side, obviously that's a different thing. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say on the takeover, Barry, anyway, and in terms of how I deal with things and how I'm trying to manage my own expectations. In terms of the comments you made, again, Barry, as always, fantastic comments, loads of stuff in there. I'm going to touch on a couple of the points you made. So you mentioned about Lookman. We were meant to get Lookman on loan. I believe it was under Rafa.
Last January.
Yeah, I've been a fan of Lookman since his time at Everton, and I followed his career when he went to Germany for that brief period, and he does look a player, doesn't he? Yeah, when he first started out at Fulham on loan, he missed that terrible penalty, didn't he? But that he seems to have recovered from that, and again, that shows a mental strength. And he'd be someone I'd certainly be looking at in the summer if he became available, because he looks a real talent, a real prospect. Yeah. So I agree, when you say that, perhaps we should look at him. In terms of Anderson, he needs a chance, doesn't he? And when he's came in, he's done a job, albeit it was only a brief cameo. But he looked a prospect, didn't he? And he's certainly someone who we should give a roll of the dice, let him have a go. And I thought his quote was interesting when he quoted Kylian Mbappe, and he said, "If you're good enough, you're old enough." And I thought, that's a little dig at Steve. But I'd love to see Elliot Anderson get a chance. It's always nice to see a local lad come through, isn't it? And let's be honest, he's going to be better than some of the dross we've been watching in that position, isn't he? I would much rather see Elliot Anderson have a chance, put the effort in, run round. He reminds me a little bit of Miggy from what I saw. He's keen. And I think he put 100% effort in, and that's what we need at the moment. We need runners. We need people who really want to be in the starting 11, really want to try the best for the club. So I'd let him off with a few mistakes, or if he didn't track a man, but as long as it wasn't through lack of effort. He's young, he's inexperienced, but the only way you get that experience is by getting game time. So I'd like to give him a go, and certainly he'd surely be worth a 60-minute substitution, wouldn't he? We come on for half an hour and let's see what the kid can do.
The Bruce substitution.
Yeah. Why not? Why not? In terms of Dubravka, you mentioned about his distribution. I don't think Dubravka's distribution's always been the best. What I did notice, though, from the game against Wolves, in terms of his short distribution and managing the defence, I did notice an improvement. So, in terms of passing it out from the back, but I grant what you're saying, in terms of the long ball, he is prone to knocking it out quite a bit. And yeah, they were the points I wanted to make, Barry. But as always, mate, really, really good points. And thank you very much again for coming on.
Okay, Pete.
Again, Barry, fantastic to have you on. Always make some really good points. And I just want to, touch on the takeover and just give my sort of opinion. I take everything with a pinch of salt. I can't get drawn into everything that you read. I did that once back in April last year and got completely drawn into it, and then we were obviously destroyed by the fact that it didn't go through when it should have. So I'm not getting myself in that position. I'm not working myself back up to that position again. I take everything with a pinch of salt. I read everything, whether it's good or bad, to get a balanced opinion of what's going on, and we wait. We've waited 13 years. I'm prepared to wait another 6 months or however long it takes in order for it to go through, because I've always said when it does go through, it will completely eradicate all of the last 13 years and all the rubbish that we've had to sit through and go through by actually having a team that's ambitious and looking to be successful. And that will completely just eradicate everything. So that's just my mentality on it. Do I believe it's going to go through? I do. And I believe that it's got so far now, and everyone from all sides, including the Premier League, have invested so much into it that I don't think it's going to be in a position where it's just going to fall flat. I feel that there will be a resolution to it one way or another. And in my opinion, I believe that's why the arbitration hasn't started yet, because I think if it was going to go through arbitration, I think it would have started by now. I think they're trying to find a resolution of some sort. When that happens, I don't know. But as Steve said, I think the smart play would be to wait till the end of the season if you're buying a football club, especially when they're in a deep relegation battle. So that's just my opinion on the takeover. With the Khashoggi stuff, the one thing I'll say, because I'm not up on all that information. The one thing I'll say is that the media need to stop making the Newcastle fans, feel like it's their fault for what's happening, because it's not. It's got nothing to do with Newcastle and the fans with what's been going on with the murder and the investigation. That is completely separate to us. Okay, we cannot be blamed for something that we have no control over. So, and that's the only point I'll make on that. With regards to your point, I actually thought Dubravka's distribution was okay on Saturday. He did make a few mistakes, but that's because he plays a particular way and he distributes the ball in a particular way. Whereas, Darlow is very erratic. He'll just kick it anywhere and he'll just quite easily give the possession back. But there were equally a number of times where he gave the ball away, equally a number of times where he actually made his go forward and start attacks off with his distribution. So it swings and roundabouts there. I thought he was very, very good. And he was great to have back. And I think he gives a lot of assurance to the defenders by him being in goal. I mean, for me, one of the man of the matches was Lascelles. And I think Lascelles played with so much more confidence on Saturday. And I'm not saying it's all because of Dubravka, but a little bit of it was. He had a spring in his step. He was really intense with his play. He really worked hard off the ball and he defended for his life. He won practically everything in the air, as did Clark. And I thought they were very good. And I think that assurance of having someone like Dubravka at the back gives him the confidence. And he's more vocal. He will tell those defenders where to go and what to do. And that makes a difference too. With regards to Elliot Anderson, I've always been of the mindset that in the position that we're in right now, I wouldn't play him. I think at the moment it's just too much of a risk, in my opinion, because you don't know how he's going to play, and we're not in a position to risk individual players with regards to us fighting to stay in this league. I think if we were in a Leeds position or maybe a Wolves position or 30 points above and you're relatively comfortable, I think then you give him a run out and you give him some games and you don't put that additional added pressure on a young lad that's coming through to demand him to perform. If he does come on and play well, then great. But I personally wouldn't choose to start him. I think we've got other players in the squad, like your Matt Ritchies, like your Jacob Murphys. Although they've had bad games, they've also had good games. And I think they've got more experience where they can really affect the game right now, other than him.
Right, good stuff, Barry. We'll have to cut you off just in time to squeeze Fumbi in. But thanks for coming on, mate, as always. Take care, pal.
Thanks very much, guys.
Good points. Good to have him on. Quickly, we'll go to you, Fumbi. We'll get you on, mate. Good evening.
Good evening, man. I'll be quick. Sorry about the late joining in. I just got the notification.
Don't worry, son.
I won't keep you guys long. Just going to address the Dubravka situation. I know a lot of people are saying he was at fault for the goal. But look, man, he's been 9 games on the bench. You need a run of games. If you look at the Wolves goalkeeper, he was hella sharp because he's been playing for a minute. So Dubravka, after under 4 games under his belt, he makes that save. So we got to give him that yardstick. You can't just come down on him and say, well, he cost us the goal. Lewis is an issue for me. I think he needs a lot of coaching. Neto was about to own him. I thought he bought him at half time because he was just all over him. So he needs a lot. He's afraid to make tackles, and he doesn't offer too much going forward yet. So there's a lot to look at there. And to Steve Bruce's communication when Matt Ritchie came on, that pissed me off because nobody knew what was going on. And you know when players come on off the bench, you see them doing those little hand signals to whoever. He literally just went on the pitch. And it's like, yeah, what are we doing? Yeah, I don't know. Let's just carry on. And we can see the goal. So just little things like that. The team is playing well. We're getting injuries and we're getting tired because what we should have been doing 15 games ago, we've only been doing for the past 4 games. So these players are adjusting to it, but they're getting. If you look at the first half we played in the last 4 games, we're just alive in the first half. Apart from the Chelsea game, we just come alive. So that's the problem we have at the moment. Hopefully we can adjust quicker because the games are coming. Thankfully we got that international break. But the point I was just making was it's improved. You know, it's such a shame we waited so long, but it definitely has improved. It's just we just have to keep our fingers crossed that we just don't get too many more injuries.
Great points, Fumbi. Chris, quickly on that, mate. We've got a couple of minutes left.
Yeah, really, really good points as always, Fumbi, and 2 really good points actually. When you mentioned Lewis, I made a quick note to myself there just to say, you know, I do feel a bit sorry for Lewis because he's so young, and you know he's come from being a really promising fullback at Norwich to now in the Newcastle team, and we just expect him to come in straight in and perform. And you know you do feel sorry for him in some ways because you think, you know, if he had have joined like a Liverpool, he'd have been integrated, he'd have been coached. Yeah. And, you know, he's missed out on that really, hasn't he? Because now it's like, oh, you're our first choice left backs. In you go. Get on with it. And he's only a young lad, isn't he? I know he's Premiership experience. I think he had a full season with Norwich. But, you know, he's only a young lad. And he's got plenty of years ahead of him. And I hope this doesn't dent his confidence. But if we get a new manager in, hopefully, you know, they'll be able to actually, you know, give him some time and actually work on things with him. And do you know what? I completely forgot about the Ritchie saga, and I'm really glad that you brought it up because how shocking was it that Steve Bruce, you know, he gets questions on it, and the first thing he does is blame one of his own team. I mean, what is all that about? You know, and such an experienced pro as well as Matt Ritchie, for him to you know put the blame on one of his players. It typifies Bruce, if I'm honest. Yeah. You know, you meant it, as a manager, or you know, certainly in my job, you know, as a manager, you're meant to protect your team, you're meant to protect your staff. You don't you know, blame them to the media, do you? And say, oh yeah, it was Matt's fault, but it's fine, we'll sort it. And I was really pleased when I saw Lascelles' interview, and he he turned around and he said, I'm going to have a word with them in the dressing room and find out what happens, because he didn't look happy. And it won't just be him; it'll be the team as a whole. But no. You know, you can't just throw a player on and say you do my job for me. Okay, you know, he's popped on. I think one of the comments there said he went straight over to, was it Isaac Hayden, and passed on a message. But it's not his responsibility; it's the manager's responsibility to tell the team. And we've got no fans in the stadium. What's wrong with having a little shout? Yeah. It's not like noise.
Good stuff. I'm going to have to cut it short, guys, because we're going to go straight into the Charlie Salvador Part 6 interview at 7 o'clock, and it is time to go on. And then I've got Ladies' Night at 7:30. So, Fumbi, thanks for coming on, mate. Give you more time next time. And Pete, you probably saw that comment come up on the channel. Now, it was already on my radar. As you'll be aware, I am asking people to take Match Day Live on. Are you willing to do the weekends? Be the one who sits in the hot seat while I do the production behind the scenes?
Yeah, more than happy to. No problem at all.
Good stuff. Chris, you can do the match after that. It's nice to have different people doing it. So be prepared, lads. So Pete, you're up next. And I can't remember who was who made the comment, but there you go. You get your wish on this channel. But lads, thanks for joining us. A great 5-minute rant. I'll see you at the weekend, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Steve. See you later, Pete.
Critics attack. I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna